Hi guys, and welcome back to Rich Girl Energy podcast. I'm your host Priyanka, and this is episode 7 of my podcast. Today's episode is called Trusting Yourself Again. This episode has been broken down into 5 different chapters. Obviously, according to whichever chapter you want to watch and listen to, feel free to skip to that one. I'm going to be starting off with chapter 1, which is called How You Lost Trust in Yourself. There was a time when trusting yourself felt natural and it felt right. For example, with me, I feel like in the past, I used to be able to make decisions straight away and be able to not have to think about what I want to do and what is right. But now I feel myself overthinking and thinking twice about everything that I say or I want to do, which I'm trying to work on. I have made progress, but I've been trying to work out why I'm doing that because I never used to do that. There was a time where you didn't have to overthink every decision, analyze every single feeling. You didn't need reassurance before moving forward. As I was saying, most women don't lose their self-trust suddenly. It happens gradually over time. Every time that you ignored a feeling to keep the peace, each time you stayed quiet when something didn't feel right, every time you explained yourself instead of standing firm on your decision and what you thought, each time you stayed longer than you should have because leaving felt uncomfortable. All these moments add up. You start by questioning your instincts, you start to second guess your reactions, you start asking other people what you should do instead of checking in on yourself first. And eventually over time you stop trusting your inner voice, not because it's wrong, but because you've learned to doubt it. This usually comes from conditioning, so what you've learned over the years. Being praised for being easygoing, being valued for being accommodating, being rewarded because you're just agreeing to everything. You started to realise that being easier was better than being honest, that comfort mattered more than alignment, that being liked meant more than being self-led. And every time your intuition speaks, you just override it and you ignore it. You tell yourself that you're overreacting. That's how you lose your self-trust and you destroy it. Rebuilding it starts with recognizing the patterns, which is what I started doing, and I've been working on myself and allowing myself to understand why I'm being the way I am. You were adapting, but adaptation isn't the same as alignment. And now you're choosing something different and you're choosing to work on yourself. Now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 2, which is called Intuition and Fear Are Not the Same Thing. One of the hardest parts of trying to trust yourself again is learning the difference between intuition and fear. Fear is loud, however intuition is quiet. Fear is urgent, however intuition is steady. Fear needs an immediate reaction, however intuition doesn't panic. Fear wants you to fix things quickly, so it rushes you. It convinces you that something bad will happen. Intuition doesn't need a detailed explanation. Intuition sits calmly in your body. Fear tightens you, however intuition grounds you. Trusting yourself again means that you need to pause long enough to hear the quieter voice. It means giving yourself time instead of making decisions at the peak of your emotion. Not reacting in the middle of discomfort. Not allowing anxiety to dictate your next move, which I know can be really hard, and that's something that I also am trying to work on. The woman that trusts herself doesn't need to get rid of fear. She knows fear exists, but she doesn't let fear lead her. The more you practice this pause, clearer intuition becomes. Now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 3, which is called Making Decisions Without Seeking Reassurance. One of the biggest and most clearest signs that you trust yourself is being able to make a decision based on what you think and what you want instead of what other people think and what they want. You stop asking everyone else what to do. You stop explaining your reasoning to feel validated. You stop waiting for confirmation before acting or before doing what you want to do. This means you become self-led. You're allowing yourself to lead yourself. The woman that trusts herself knows that uncertainty is a part of life, and that's okay. She knows that clarity doesn't always come before an action or a movement. It can also come after an action or a movement. She accepts her mistakes and doesn't think that she's a failure just because of them. She knows that she is learning from these mistakes. Every time you make a decision and actually stand by it firmly, you rebuild trust with yourself slowly. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when others don't agree with you, and even when the outcome isn't what you want or isn't perfect. Self-trust is built for repetition and consistently pouring into yourself. You choose, you adjust, you observe, and you follow through. You stop abandoning yourself. And over time, you make this shift and you're able to trust yourself more. You stop shrinking your decisions. You stop needing permission from others to be able to move forward. And that's when confidence starts to settle into your body. Now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 4, which is called Trusting Yourself in Friendships and Relationships. In relationships, self-trust can be tested quite a lot. This is because relationships involve attachment, vulnerability, and emotion. This is where a lot of women can override their intuition because they ignore red flags, because they want things to work out. They may struggle to let go of people. They excuse behavior because they see potential, and they stay longer because it feels uncomfortable to leave. Trusting yourself in relationships means believing in the experience that you had. If something feels off, it matters. If behavior doesn't align with words, it matters. If you feel anxious instead of safe, that really matters. A woman that trusts herself doesn't argue with her intuition. She doesn't need proof in order to prove that something is wrong. She understands that trusting herself is way more important than being chosen. She doesn't need to stay in order to prove her worth. She walks away when alignment disappears and is no longer there. Not because she's angry, but because she has self-respect. And because of that, her relationships become clearer, healthier, and more balanced. And now finally, I'm going to be moving on to chapter 5, which is called Becoming a Woman Who Backs Herself. There will come a point in your life where trusting yourself isn't a goal anymore, it becomes a standard. You stop questioning every single decision, you stop explaining your boundaries, and you stop apologizing for change. Change will always happen, and it is happening for the best. You start to back yourself consistently. You understand and know that self-trust isn't built through affirmations, it's built through actions. It's how you look at yourself and how you want to better yourself. Every time you trust yourself and you listen to yourself, you honor your word to yourself, you strengthen it. Every time you listen to your intuition, it grows clearer. Every time that you choose alignment over comfort, you deepen your confidence within yourself. And that is when you start to realize you don't need external validation. You can literally trust your own judgment. You don't need reassurance from other people when you back yourself. And you don't need approval from anyone when you're aligned. You choose differently, you speak differently, and you move differently. And that is because you know that even if something was to go wrong, you'd be able to handle it yourself. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next episode. Mwah!